All right. So just a reminder, if you could please mute your line when you're not speaking, just so we can eliminate some of the background noise. We will do the roll call voting as we get to those moments in the agenda. And I just realized that I don't have an agenda pulled up, and that would actually probably be really helpful for me right at this moment to know exactly what we're doing if I'm driving the agenda. So let me grab that really quick. And then we do have our public comment registration process. We had nobody registered for public comment, so we shouldn't have anything at that time when we get there. And also a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, so just be aware of that as well. All righty, so let's go ahead and get started here. Get our agenda going. All right, so that takes us to the call to order and any opening comments, Dr. Kuhn.
So good morning. My name is Ann Kuhn. I am the Pharmacy Manager of Clinical Policy with the Office of Medicaid Policy and Planning, and I did have one major item to note since our last meeting. OMPP has named John Ross as our new pharmacy director. So many of you may know John. He's been with the state for 13 plus years and has been an amazing asset and resource. So we are happy to have him in this new position. So with that, I will call the Thursday, April 17th, 2025, Indiana Medicaid Mental Health Quality Advisory Committee meeting to order.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhn, and congratulations, Mr. Ross. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our previous meeting. So if I could get a motion in a second, or any comments, questions, or concerns about the meeting minutes?
This is Wendy Powell. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. This is Carol.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Dr. Andreessen.
Approve.
Dr. Ott.
Approve.
Dr. Powell.
Approve.
Dr. Rice.
Approve.
And Dr. Kuhn.
Approve.
All right, so we have all ayes, so that motion will carry. Thank you. We will then turn it over to our updates. So for our utilization edit recommendations, we have a couple new products and an update to an existing one. So Raldesi is a trazodone oral solution, adding a quantity limit of 60 mils per day. And then Spravato, which has been available on the market recently, just had a monotherapy in depression added. So we wanted to update the criteria that they must use concurrently with an antidepressant if they're utilizing it for the depressive symptoms with major depressive disorder with acute suicidal ideation or behavior, since that does still require concurrent use with an antidepressant. And so, but in the other situations, they could potentially use as monotherapy or with adjunct antidepressant therapy as well. And then Zunveil, which is a new benzgalantamine product for Alzheimer's, the 5, 10, and 15, all at 2 tablets per day. I believe that's all we have there. So any questions, comments, or concerns on those? If not, if I could have a motion in a second, please.
Wendy Powell, so moved.
This is Carol, a second.
All right, it's been motion and second. Hey, Courtney, can you take the roll call vote for me just for 1 second, please, so I can grab this? Thank you.
There. Okay, I'm going to take a roll call. And Dr. Holbershoner is not on yet, right? No. Okay, so Dr. Rice.
Approve.
Dr. Andreessen.
Approve.
Dr. Powell.
Approve.
Dr. Ott.
Approve.
And Dr. Kim.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. And I imagine I'm going to have to take over the PowerPoint as well. Give me 1 second here to do that. Okay, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep, we can.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I'm not in presentation mode because I'm borrowing it from Amanda's screen. Okay, so the PA stats for January 1st through March 31st, 2025. Here are our stats for first quarter. They look pretty in line with what we have been seeing previously. And then as you can see on our graph, everything appears fairly steady. Maybe a slight uptick in the sedative, hypnotics, and benzodiazepines, but overall fairly steady. Any questions about our stats? No? All right. Oh, sorry. Okay, here's our antipsychotics, the number of unique utilizers in age review. We have nobody in under 3. Our biggest utilizers of antipsychotics for the fee-for-service population is 18 to 64, which is where it's been previously. And then we have some between ages 3 and 17 in a small amount over 65. Any questions there? All right. And then our stimulants, same thing. We don't have any utilizers under the age of 3. Our biggest populations are between 6 and 14 and 15 and 24 years. And then we have a few others in the other categories. Oh, you back?
I'm back. Just let me know if you want me to take it.
You are welcome to take it.
All right, we'll share it really quickly. Thank you for that. So on the adherence measures, we are on the depression side running at about 86.4%. So a little bit of a decrease from the last quarter, and our psychosis is at 87.4%. Again, just a slight decrease, but overall, our adherence looks really, really good in the state, especially compared to some other states. So I think we're doing really well there. In our PA stats related to addiction, here's our buprenorphine claims overall. So fairly steady in the number of claims we're receiving. We had a little bit of a dip in kind of the November, December, and then it started to climb back up again. So that's fairly normal based on what we see around that time of year. And then unique members, again, very steady overall. And then prescribers as well, fairly steady in that range also. And then for our PA requests, this graph does look a little wild and crazy, but it's really just because the numbers are so small. So adding in just even, a couple really makes this graph kind of go all over the place. So we do tend to have some like cyclical PAs. So what you're seeing a lot of times is it's usually about 1 time per quarter, maybe once every 6 months, just depending on how it looks. We tend to have these spikes at different times. So that's kind of what we're seeing. But again, still relatively small numbers and within kind of what we've expected to see. And again, this is just for non-preferred products or the injectable products. And I could tell you that we're not seeing a spike here because of a huge increased demand for injectable products. That stays about the same in the PA criteria. It really tends to be requests for non-preferred oral products is what we tend to see the most of. Any questions or comments on any of those? All right, hearing none, then we will go ahead and start our managed care pharmacy updates, I believe. Let me just check the agenda and make sure there's not a standing item before that. But I'm pretty sure it's managed care. It is. So let's go on to them. And Brian, are you presenting this or is somebody else getting the group stats?
Hi, good morning, Amanda. Yes, I am.
All right, perfect.
Good morning, everyone. And congratulations to John Ross, well deserved. And so just to kind of get started here, this is the buprenorphine activity. As you look at the standing for MCOs that had the bulk of the business, and now the addition of UHC and Humana's information over on the right. The more mature populations have pretty consistent utilization. Nothing really here to point out. We will point out that the Bonavale will be removed. You'll see it's all zeros there in the row. So we're actually going to take that off of the reporting process for next quarter. But nothing significant in terms of claims. There is a little bit of change on the United Healthcare, but remember those far to right blocks use the scale on the right. So small numbers in those populations make it look more volatile than it really was. So next slide. And, similar situation with the numbers of unique members that are getting these services. You see they're fairly consistent and a little bit of movement on the United side, but again, it's a grand total of about 20 members impacted there in that population at this point right now. So small membership, we'll watch it as it grows. And next is the prescribers. So again, not much change here, similar to what you've seen on the others. And the last one is the PA stats. And similar to what Amanda had said earlier, so I just want to point out these are only for those members getting utilization outside of the standard MME limits. And so very few numbers in terms of this population and not much change in terms of what's going on. So the buprenorphine is pretty stable overall. Any questions on those? All right, thanks, Amanda. So gonna hear a repeated story here. So the adherence, this is the HIP antipsychotics, and you can kind of see all four of the MCOs here, very consistent and very good performance in terms of adherence for the antipsychotics. Next up is the HCC population, and again, you see the United change here in terms of the MCOs, and again, very, very solid. All four lines for all three MCOs steady and holding good. So next slide. And whoop, is that the right one? Yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, Amanda.
Got ahead of myself there.
Yeah, so but the comment is pretty much the same on all of these slides as you look at them. They're, the columns are consistent and steady and all looking really solid. So I did want to point out the two new ones for pathways. The next one. One more. That is the HCC antidepressants, and again, nice trends. I think, Amanda, if you just kind of go to the, is there not a
Brian, we're not doing these for pathways.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I have it in the ones that I'm looking at. So I was like, wait, there's not a pathway slide in here. Sorry, everyone. Got it.
Sorry, I was trying to look for it, but I wasn't finding it.
Yeah, no, it's in the other deck. So I was looking at the wrong one, but okay, great. Any questions on those? Again, similar to Amanda's comment, adherence looks really solid in both the antidepressants and the psychosis across the board. So we're really happy about that result.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. We will turn it over then to Amy Berger with Anthem. Amy?
Good morning. So as Amanda mentioned, my name's Amy Berger, and I am here to share the Anthem updates. We start here with our first slide, and this is the prior authorization statistics for the first quarter of 2025, but as in recent quarters, this just provides the values for the specific quarter. But as we move to the next slide, we can actually take a closer look at the trends. Excuse me. Here we have our PA volume represented by the bars on the Y, with the Y-axis to the left, and the approval rates represented by the lines and that corresponding Y-axis to the right. Here we see, as in previous quarters, this PA volume remains fairly steady. The class of the ADHD medications, it did decrease slightly, but that's kind of as expected, where we typically see that momentary increase with back to school at the end of Q3 and then beginning of Q4. But then here in Q1, that kind of drops back down. As far as the approval rates, These remain fairly steady, with the exception of the sedative, hypnotics, and benzos, and that's the green line. And this we see these start to decrease again, but this was expected. If you recall that we presented last quarter, that we had a correction that we made in terming of automation that had inadvertently been put in place that caused that spike in that approval. So that is now coming back down as we would expect. All others remain relatively unchanged. Are there any questions on this information? If not, we can move to the next slide. And here we have our utilization by age, starting with our antipsychotics. And just as we've seen in previous quarters, the great majority of this utilization remains here with our members ages 18 to 64, and it's consistent with each of the previous quarters. This looks virtually identical. On the next slide, this one similarly, when we look at the stimulants, our numbers align with the previous quarters, and that utilization is predominantly in the two age groups. First, it's the school age, those 6 to 14 years old, and then that young to middle-aged adults, they're the 25 to 49. Are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you. Happy Thursday.
Thanks, Amy. Next up, we have CareSource, and I believe is it Jennifer?
Hey,
Jennifer.
it is. It's me. Yes, thank you. Jen Chapin from CareSource. Thanks for having me. I'm stepping in for Beth today, so appreciate the ability to be here. First slide here for CareSource. So looking at total process claims, paid, rejected, and then of course those PA approved and denial rates. And then next slide for trends. We have noticed our approvals are trending up over time here. So that is something that we are checking into with our pharmacy operations team to get a little bit more clarity there, just a slight trend up. So potentially more information to come there. And next slide. Okay, so our antipsychotics age review, 0 members under 3, and where we expect to see the most utilization, of course, within that 18 to 64 year age range, and very few above. And then our stimulants age review, we did have 2 members showing under 3 here. Those members did turn 3 within the reporting window, and we are, again, checking into those cases. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll turn it back over. Thank you so much.
And appreciate it. Next up, we should have Humana, and is Bill speaking today or somebody else?
Yeah,
for
nope,
Humana?
I'm speaking today. Good morning,
Perfect.
everyone. Just a quick review of first quarter. Looking at the anti-psychs approval, right around that 64%. The SSRIs, antidepressants, right around 67%. Stimulants, 58%. And the sedatives right around 71%. And if you go over to the next slide real quick, you can see Q4 versus the Q1, and you'll see a little bit higher bar graph there for those anti-psychs just coming out of the transition or continuity of care period. And you can see the trend there of everything's pretty much the same quarter over quarter, and with a little bit decrease in the stimulants, and that's just really since a very small number of members on that particular class of drugs for pathways. Next slide. You can just see our age review, and again, pathways 60 to 64, so you're going to see really those numbers in that two age groups and a few with that 65 and age and over for the anti-psychs. Same thing plays out with the stimulants on the next page. Very few, very small numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Bill? All right, thanks, Bill. Next, we will turn it over to, I believe Cindy will be presenting for MHS. Cindy?
Hi, thanks, Amanda. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. If you could please advance. Thank you. So here's the metrics for the PA statistics. Not much change except in the stimulants. So if we could go to the next one, you'll see on the graph that the stimulants, the PA requests have increased. So we're finding that pharmacies are wanting to continue with the generic Vyvanse, and it is in the school year. So January and February, these were allowed to process for the school year, but now, we did it for 2 months, and now we're letting the pharmacies know you've got to use the brand preferred Vyvanse. And the reason this number is higher is because these are not only PA submissions, but PAs put in via the call center. So, there was a shortage of Vyvanse at the end of the year last year, and it seems like the pharmacies, MHS's impression is they're not bringing in all the brands right now. So there is a change in that yellow line, which brings up the blue line, which is the overall PA submission. Other than that, things are pretty much riding the same for MHS. Antipsychotic age review. This is not a big change for us. It seems to be riding steady. We do have some 3 to 5s, but they tend to waver off and on when you look back at the numbers from previous quarters. You can go to the stimulants. So most of these, as you can see, are school age or, just out of school, but this report is not showing a lot of variability either. So do you have any questions for MHS?
All right, thanks, Cindy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now turn it over to Marissa Mattingly with MDWise. Marissa?
Hey, Amanda, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. As Amanda said, Marissa Mattingly, a clinical pharmacist with MDWise. And first we'll look at our behavioral health PA stats for first quarter. And on this slide, we have PA volume and approval rates for each mental health drug category. You'll notice that there really hasn't been much change in any category. Each drug category is within 100 PAs of the previous quarter. So there's really very little fluctuation between each quarter. And you'll see by the lines, the approval rates remain pretty steady. And on the next slide, we have the number of unique members utilizing antipsychotics by age group. No real changes here. We didn't have any use for under 3 years of age and had the highest utilization for 18 to 64-year-olds. And then the next slide is stimulant utilization. There was actually one member that came up in the under 3 category, but this is due to just the timing of the report and the member's birthday. So the member really didn't receive a stimulant until they were over 3 years of age. The highest number of unique members utilizing stimulants was the 6 to 14-year-old group, And then the second highest was the 25 to 49-year-old group. Again, this is pretty much the same as the previous quarters. No big changes. And then unless anyone has any questions, that's all for MDWise.
All right, thanks, Marissa. And now we will turn it over to Monica Blankenship with United Health Group Care.
Thanks, Amanda. Good morning, everyone. So starting off here with our trending slide, we do continue to see some movement due primarily to the pathways population that was added to UHC. So you do see some changes, but overall it's getting a little more stable as we continue to move on. The only big change that you might notice is the yellow line for the ADHD class, so the stimulants. The approval rate did go up, but that the amount of PAs that we get for a quarter are super small. So really it was just a couple more approvals that resulted in that change. So nothing that is concerning for us. Next slide. So this is our age review slide. No changes in these slides that we have seen. The majority of our utilizers, similar to others, are in that 18 to 64 range. And then for our stimulants in that 6 to 14-year-old range, but nothing out of the ordinary for these. And if there are no questions, I'll give it back to you, Amanda. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. Appreciate it. All right. Next item on the agenda then is any update on wards and fosters guideline development or implementation. And I believe it's going to fall to you, Dr. Kuhn, today, because I don't think we have Leslie Holbershorn on that I can see.
Okay.
No, it's probably, sorry, Anne, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Dr. Ott.
So Dr. Hunt and I have been talking about this. We have a timeline of end of May to get the revisions done that we need to do for the guidelines. And then we'll take it back to the committee after that. And Anne, I don't know what part, are you working on part of it too?
I have not been assigned anything, so.
Okay, so Amber and I we're going through the tables and just the broader pieces of it and making sure it's updated by the end of May.
All right, perfect. And then I assume that will get posted somewhere on the website when it's done.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will, and I'll defer to Anne about that.
Yeah, DCS has a PMAC page and it is posted on there.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have anything for concurrent use of opiates and benzos this morning, unless somebody else has something that I'm not aware of. All right, hearing none, I will then start us into old business. From an old business perspective, we are looking at the following reporting to be discontinued: the antidepressant, antipsychotic adherence, as well as the antipsychotic and stimulant utilization by age. And I think this is really just because we're seeing the same consistent numbers throughout, and we're not really seeing any change there. Any questions or comments on that? And Dr. Kuhn, did you have anything you wanted to add to this section?
Just that when those were presented at the October 2023 meeting, that had been the plan to sunset these after 1 year. We ended up not reporting on them until April of 2024. So this is the year mark. So yeah, unless the committee objects, we'll go ahead and discontinue the reporting going forward.
All right, I am hearing no objections. Thank you. Then any other old business that anybody has? All right, any new business before I get into ours? Okay, hearing none. We got a lot going on with clonidine and guanfacine, which you might have noticed when we sent this over. So we did create public facing criteria with the existing step therapy that's on the utilization list to better capture the intent and review for prescribers, just because we did feel like there was some confusion. And we did make some updates around just trying to make this a little more cohesive, easier to understand, and capture everything so that we have everything in place. So on the Catapress, the transdermal system, the clonidine IR/ER tablets, the guanfacine IR/ER, the Oneida XR suspension, criteria was added to the initial authorization around prescriber has provided medical justification for use of concurrent use of the two. And so either they're not using concurrently or we have medical justification for use. And then the reauthorization criteria added was that the member has been previously approved for concurrent therapy and that they're submitting chart documentation obtained, showing that they're monitoring vitals and making sure that the member's not having any issues while utilizing clonidine and guanfacine concurrently. It's pretty rare that we see individuals using both where they're not using just one particular product, like the ER and then the IR formulation the same. But I would say at least what I've historically seen, the most of what we see is somebody using the guanfacine ER and then wanting to use like a lower strength clonidine IR tablet in the afternoon, where they tend to mix a little bit. So just a FYI there. The clonidine IR tablets have been updated. Their max daily dose, as the dose requested, should not exceed 0.6 milligrams per day for members less than 18 years of age and without a hypertension diagnosis. So obviously hypertension diagnoses can exceed that limit. And then historically, we had the Nexiclon XR tablets not included in this because technically they don't have, they have compendia, but it's not really the same in this dosage form. So we are adding it to the PA just so that we can capture it, but it won't be added to the mental health medications and utilization edits list. So just want to point that out. So the initial authorization is that they'd have a diagnosis of hypertension, they're 18 years of age and older, and then they won't be concurrently using with guanfacine, or they have medical justification for use, and the dose will not exceed 3 tablets per day. And then reauth is history of the requested agent for 90 of the past 120 days, that they're not using concurrently with guanfacine, or again, that they've previously been using it and they've been monitoring the vitals, et cetera. And again, the 3 tablets per day dosing. So just capturing all of the clonidine formulations for that PA. And then lastly, we have an
Excuse me, Amanda.
Go ahead,
So
Wendy.
sorry. Wendy Powell. Yep. On the clonidine guanfacine, I know this probably next needs to go to the DUR board, but just for purposes of MCE implementation, I want to confirm that the public facing criteria document will ultimately be updated and we'll work from that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it should go in, this would be presented at their May meeting. So we would be looking at a 7-1.
7-1. Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Any other questions? I didn't even give an opportunity for questions. I was just steamrolling right through. All right. So for the narcolepsy PA for Xyrem and Xywav, we are requesting to remove this criteria from the reauthorization portion, which is around documented attempted to decrease dose or trial and failure of alternative therapy within the past year. Really, there is now data about continued use, and so we just wanted to update that PA to follow the data appropriately. And then for Xyrem, also removing the diagnosis of fibromyalgia in its criteria because it does not have compendia support with the appropriate level of evidence for that indication. Any questions or concerns on any of the new criteria? If not, if I could get a motion in a second, please.
Wendy Powell, so moved.
Elizabeth Andreessen, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So Dr. Andreessen.
Approve.
Dr. Ott.
Approve.
Dr. Powell.
Approve.
Dr. Rice.
Approve.
And Dr. Kuhn.
Approve.
All right, we have all ayes, so that will carry. Any other new business that maybe somebody thought of? Okay, as I mentioned, we had no registrations for public comment for this meeting, so we have no public comment today. And I believe that should take us to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment, and if there's any agenda topics that needed to be added. Any new agenda items from anybody? All right, I'm hearing none. So Dr. Kuhn, I will turn it over to you to adjourn the meeting.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you, committee members, for your participation. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks all. Have a good day.
Have a great
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.